Let's ask him. Can you hear us now?
Cool.
Yeah, okay.
All right, well, y'all caught us in the technical moment, okay? We was trying to make sure all the things are correct.
Are you recording?
Anywho, happy Thursday, everybody.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Moms go mom, aren't they? Okay, so happy Thursday. Welcome to this space that we hold for ourselves and for the people, okay?
Yes.
If you've
We
been
do hold the space. We never said it like that before, but I like it.
She just be trying to act like she don't know who she raised, but it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hold the space for us and the people. It is Thursday. If you've been with us, we have been on the same word for 2 months, which is tenant, not like a person,
not like a landlord and a tenant,
but staying in your residence, but a principle, a pillar, a philosophy that holds all the things together. We have been talking with some exceptional, incredible, melanated mental and emotional health professionals throughout the month,
which we wanted to bring to you because we didn't want you to think we were just making this up.
We're not blowing smoke, people, okay?
These are real important principles for you to have in your life if you want to be well. If you do not, if wellness is not your goal, okay.
We're not for you. There's plenty of other podcasts.
There are plenty of other podcasts you can listen to. But if you're trying to get well, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, then we're for you.
We're for you. And today we have a very, very, very special guest. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, you should stick around, okay? Because this episode is for you.
Hi, I'm Pam Williams, a mother.
And I'm Jessica E. Williams, a daughter. And this is a mother and a daughter truthful chat, where we discuss our 35-year multi-layered relationship.
We've been through so many ups and downs. Not only are we family, but we're business partners in the high-stress world of event planning and production for short films.
We've also shared the same therapist for over 10 years. What some people call codependence, we call collaboration.
So join us as we share stories from our lives,
have candid conversations with other mother-daughter duos,
and shed light on the roller coaster ride of being a woman while raising a woman.
All right, people. I still love the intro. The intro is still a good time.
I know.
You know what time it is, Cups Up? You did it again. I know it's for the lefties, but
it's so awkward.
Is that hand discrimination when they only make the cups?
You know what?
The lefties actually need the cups.
Listen, what would be fire is a cup that you can
move the holder around.
So you can move the handle from one side.
Copyright. Don't steal it. Okay? Don't steal it.
Anyway, I am supporting Black theater today. Our lovely students who competed in the August Wilson competition are on their way to
the LA finals. Now they are national.
They did the LA finals. We had 2 people that won, and now they're on their way to the national finals in Pittsburgh to be held on August Wilson's birthday, which is Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're sending love to our students
and our founder,
our mentors, everybody that works with the young people. Good luck to them. We hope they win.
Bring the trophy back to LA.
Bring it back.
Bring it home. Anyway, and this cup is me celebrating me, okay? This cup was with me through various and sundry days, nights into days when I was doing my time in television production. It wasn't prison. It was a good time. It was How to Get Away with Murder. So, but some days were harder than others. So shouting out this Jess, okay, and everything that she bought.
And everything that she
survived,
pushed through,
got through. Mainly because of our guest that we're going to be bringing here today. So, welcome to Truthful Chats. If you're just now joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're an OG, we love an OG, so salute to you. So listen, Truthful Chats is our weekly podcast series that we have under our brand, Create Generational Wellness, which we're all about. At Create Generational Wellness, we have a theme of the month. Like I mentioned in the intro, we've been on the same theme for 2 months, which is tenant. Okay. And we did our initial episodes that were about these tenets. Like, what does it mean if you want to be a person to create generational wellness? How do you know if you're the person that's into that? What does that look like? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then we said, sometimes y'all don't be believing us. Therefore, we should bring in people with degrees, professionals, people that know what they're talking about, with credentials. And so we did that. And we specifically found melanated mental and emotional health practitioners. So we've had 3 of them so far. Go back and watch those episodes if you have not seen them. They're a good time, very enlightening, very insightful. But today, okay, y'all might, y'all actually might get some tea today. I'm just telling y'all.
We'll give him permission to give a little tea if it's necessary.
This is the man, the myth, the legend. We talk about him all the time. He's in the intro indirectly, okay?
When we say we've had the same therapist for 10 years.
10 years, this is who we're talking about. We've talked about him on the podcast before. I feel like we wouldn't be who we are individually. We would not be the dynamic mother-daughter duo that we are attempting to be without this man. I don't know if I would even be here, okay? If it wasn't for this man.
And I might not be here because I might be in prison because I might have caught a case.
We're not trying to say he's Jesus, but he's kind of close for us. He done saved our souls. Like Kendrick would say, I am not your savior, okay? But he's definitely saved us a few times, okay? More than a few times. So he is going to be talking with us about our last tenet, sort of our core tenet. All the tenets lead up to this one, which is the true you gets your true life. We're going to be talking about all things authenticity, how to know you being your real true self, and
how to get to that,
how to recognize that, and how to take.
Some of y'all haven't seen y'all real true self in a long
or ever
time, and especially since social media came out.
And that's not all your fault, okay? So we're gonna be talking about true you getting your true life. How did that line up with your actions and all the things? Ladies and gentlemen, start clapping right now, okay? Put your hands together for Dr. Tremaine Walker.
Hello, sir.
Hello, ladies. You guys are too kind.
I don't know about
Listen,
all that.
the truth is the truth. We
I
know.
don't know about all that. We know. We know we're a lot. We're a lot to deal with.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you for joining us.
The podcast wouldn't exist without this man. Y'all really don't understand, okay? You really don't understand.
No, you guys give me too much credit. I'm just here enjoying the ride.
Okay, all right.
Well, cups up
Be
to
humble.
you.
Be humble.
Cups up to you.
You got your mug?
What you drinking?
Water.
I'm drinking water. High quality H2O.
H2O. Good.
We love it. All right, let's jump right into it. Okay. We like to do a segment, particularly when we have guests of the field here, called degree bragging. Okay, degree bragging. We want to know all the degrees that you have, what qualifies you to be here talking to the people, not because we don't know, just so they can know, okay, that you are indeed a doctor, for sure. So go ahead, brag on yourself a little bit.
Oh man, this is tough. This is not my wheelhouse at all. I'm just a guy that tries to show up and be a team player where I can. But anyway, I have a bachelor's degree in behavior and social science from Cal State Northridge. I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy from Phillips Graduate Institute, and I have a doctorate degree in psychology also from Phillips Graduate Institute.
Degrees, okay?
We just want y'all to know.
And he's a doctor on paper, okay? And it's for real, actual degrees, okay? So there we have it for those that need all of that, okay? Because they just, well, we don't know, we not sure, and now you know. All right. So we're going to get into it now, all of our set questions. So we're trying to get the people to authenticity, okay? Their true, most authentic self. As you have definitely challenged me over the years. I don't know what y'all be doing in y'all sessions. That's y'all business. But for me, it's been a lot of like, Jess, I don't know if you really are feeling that, if you really want to do that, if that's really aligned with who you are, right? So how do you define, and what would you say are the components of a person that you see that is living, they're being an authentic person and they're living an authentic life? Do you have like maybe 1 to 3 things or whatever comes to mind about how a person could be like, oh, I'm doing all right in that, or like, I might need to work on my authenticity a little bit?
So it's a very good question, and I think it's multi-layered because it's kind of complicated.
Of course.
So I'm a person that believes that if you are being a successful human, you are always evolving and growing and changing. So it's important to recognize the things that made you authentic yesterday may be different from the things that make you authentic today. Meaning, you guys mentioned something about social media. So when social media first started, everybody was enamored with showing who they are and what they were about. And sometimes we got caught up in trying to be a little too flashy or trying to keep up with the Joneses or do a little bit too much bragging. The problem comes when we aren't having the best of days or maybe the best stretches in life, and we've got to try to maintain that image. So I think it's tough when we are trying to quote unquote maintain an image, right? Because your image can change based on how you feel that day, right? So sometimes we are very politically correct in things that we are responding to. And other times we just feel the way we feel. And you just going to say what it is that you got to say. So do you feel the next day that you need to be apologetic about what it is that you're saying and how you feel? If you need to apologize for what you're saying and how you feel, I don't know if you're able to be your true authentic self. Now, if you work for a big company like, I don't know, Fox or Disney, hey, Fox or Disney, if y'all hear this, come sponsor us. Anyway, if you work for one of those big companies, then you are held to a particular standard where you can't just say any and everything that comes to your mind. But if you...
And they make you sign a contract for that, by the way. But go ahead.
Oh, thank you for that. I figured they did, which is why they're probably able to get rid of people who are controversial, right?
So you're in violation.
But I also think this is about being able to wake up in the mirror and be satisfied with what you've done today, right? Once again, it changes every single day. So if today is my professional day and I get a chance to see 6 clients today and I did that, maybe it was a successful day. Maybe tomorrow was my workout day. And instead of sleeping in late, I got in and worked out, right? I'm being true to the goals that I set and who I want to be. But if I'm making excuses about the things that, the places I'm trying to go and how I need to get there, then maybe I'm not being my true authentic self, because at the end of the day, I am the person who is going to be unsatisfied with my progress or lack thereof. And once again, it's always evolving and shifting. It's funny because when I give advice to like new couples getting married, right, it's always the dudes who are like, bro, I don't know how I'm going to do this and yada, yada, yada. So I'll say to them, listen, just like you, your significant other, your woman is going to be different at 21 than she is at 25, and be different at 30, and then be different at 35. So we're always evolving. And in order for your relationships to work, you've got to evolve too. You can't be the same man at 19 at 30, right? So this process about being your true self is about evolution. In so many words. Sorry to be so long-winded.
No. You're preaching already. You're preaching already.
About evolution. So, in your professional opinion, what are the rewards of living authentically? Like, if you can manage to do this, what are you going to see in your life that will benefit you? And then conversely, what happens if you keep living a life that is not authentic? How does that affect you and impact you?
So I believe that when you live authentically, you can reach this little thing that we call satisfaction. Not being content, but being satisfied, and being satisfied with who you are and the daily challenges that we have. Because the challenges that you have will be, you know, a contributor to the bigger picture. Whatever your bigger picture is, those daily challenges will be a contributor. So you can be okay with, you know, a professional struggle, because you know on the other side of the road there is some sort of you can accomplish something that has to do with getting to the bigger picture. Now, when you're not able to live your true self, that's when you start running up against self-loathing and self-doubt, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all, well, I'm gonna speak for myself. I've been in plenty of situations where I've had imposter syndrome, right? To where you are in a situation where you're clearly qualified, but you don't quite know that, like maybe the people that you're talking to think, oh no, this dude's a fraud. He don't know what he's talking about.
Right.
And then in my own braggadocious way, I have to literally go to a mirror and remember who I am,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Not in an overly confident way to where I'm a jerk, but in a confident way to where I'm able to, as the young kids say today, stand on business,
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
Because at the end of the day, both of you guys know that there are some professional sacrifices that you have had to make that are unlike other people have had to make. And what's made you you and gotten you to the space that you are in is some of the sacrifices that you have been willing to make. So when you go into a situation, you are the expert in certain spaces because of the education, the research, and the experience that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, like if I'm teaching a class and there's a class of 50 people and I'm like, oh man, somebody's going to say something I don't know. I have to be okay with being able to say, just because I have a degree in something doesn't mean that I know everything or I'm well versed in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can say, can I get back to you? Or can I shoot you an email later? Can I give you a call later and we'll talk about it and figure it out together?
Yeah.
But that was part of my evolution, not putting on a front like, oh, I know everything.
Yeah.
It was being able to be honest to say, you know what, I don't really know, or I'm not sure. Or maybe my professional opinion or my experience might not align with the things you have researched on Google.
Right.
Yeah. So let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to, we talked about it in an episode, but we didn't. It's coming out anyway in terms of like ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you have to, because I think that's the thing, especially people think authenticity comes from being braggadocious, right? Which I think is what social media does, which is make people feel like
Flex.
you might not be that, but if you can blumptuate and hype yourself up to make it seem like you are that, or you really do that thing, like, you know, Catfish really did a lot for the culture, right? It was like it exposed like people be out here lying and having elaborate plans and schemes that support that. So I think that there is a level of, you know, we support the king around here. You could be great at your craft, right? You could be good at what you do. But there's also space for you to be humble, right? To be like, I know what I know. I'm confident on what I know. I can stand 10 toes down in this, but I also, you know, I'm willing
There's
to
some
be
other
humble to
areas.
say there are some places that I can continue to grow, continue to evolve. As a Black man in America, okay, can you speak to what has been your process in terms of, again, like there's a space where like ego is needed, ego is necessary, ego helps you accomplish, you know, things and get places, but scaling that back so you don't find yourself with egg on your face because you've been a little too like, yeah, I got it, I'm good, I'm this, I'm that, and then you go, maybe not egg on your face. Can you speak to that just a little?
Sure. So I have been in situations professionally where I'm the decision maker in an organization. And maybe we're meeting with another organization, and the decision makers of that organization aren't people that look like me, if you get where I'm going.
Correct.
We got you.
Normally, I don't make people call me Dr. Trey, Dr. Walker, anything. It's not me. So I can remember times where I would give a suggestion or make a decision about something, and the other partnering organization would completely ignore what I'm saying and then ask the CEO or CFO who looks like them, right? So what do you think? And then that person will point to me and say, oh, he's the decision maker. And they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, Trey, what do you think? And I'll be like, that's Dr. Walker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it ain't trying to be a flex, but it's like, I'm sitting in this room at this table for a reason, right?
Put some respect on my name. It's the Birdman anointing.
Yes, ma'am. And you and I have talked about that before, Jess. Sometimes you got to show you the big dog in the room, but also to your inner self, you got to know you're not bigger than the process, or you're not bigger than the culture, or bigger than the program.
Yeah.
But the things that you do, if we could get a little political, the things that you do sometimes you put on for the culture.
Facts.
You know what I mean?
Facts.
There's a lot of times we talk, ladies in general, about not making certain decisions because it wouldn't be a good look for you as a member of the culture.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that a part of your makeup and a part of what makes you authentic is recognizing that you do belong to a community and recognizing that in a small, minute way, each of us, the community depends on us to put on in the best way that we can put on. Now, does that mean we're going to make mistakes? Absolutely. Right? I don't trust people. Taking off my professional hat, the South Central me don't trust nobody that know everything. Okay, I feel like you're gonna hustle me at some
love
point.
South Central Trey. Let's just go with that.
Okay,
We
got
love
you.
South Central Trey.
I
There's
feel
room
like you're
for
gonna
all
hustle me.
trades here.
So
It's true.
for people who are honest, they're like, you know what, bro? I really don't know this. I'm really not well versed in this. I can respect that.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not trying to prove to me that you are all knowing, the all seeing eye. You're not trying to be that.
Right.
Right.
Right? Because if you think about your expertise, ladies and audience, if you think about your expertise, think about the commitment you have to put in to be an expert in the field that you're an expert in. There's no way you have that ability to commit to 4 or 5 different fields and things at the same time to be an expert in 4 or 5 different things.
Right.
Right? I call cap.
I call cap.
Right? But you can be well versed in a lot of things, but you have to be honest with yourself about I'm an expert here, which is a hard process to come to be able to say I'm an expert in this field. That takes, you know what I mean, like an understanding of who you are and what you've done.
Yeah.
Right? I know in times where we have gotten in challenges or struggles, I'll always say to my client, let's just look at your resume. Forget my opinion. Let's look at the black and white of your resume. It's not me saying you're that chick. It's your resume and the things you've accomplished that says you're that chick. So you go in that room and you chin up and chest out.
Correct. That's a t-shirt too. Chin up, chest out.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so that's all wonderful. Let's start at the baby steps. I like to say we doing baby steps, practical things. So what's just the first step somebody could take to start to figure out how to unlock their authentic self? Like just one thing to be like, okay, I hear what you're saying. That sounds like a good idea. What's the first step I can take to do that?
So if I could keep it a buck, I think that we need to deal with our childhood traumas. And the reason we need to deal with our childhood traumas is because so many of your adult defense mechanisms and how you interact with people as an adult have to do with the way you protected yourself as a child.
That's good.
Now, I am not suggesting that the way you protect yourself is toxic, but I'm saying it's worth taking a look at it to see if it's actually working for you and the person that you want to be in the world.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Right? I think I seen a podcast from one of your previous guests who I know and we used to work together. And he's right. He used to be a terror before he found God. Okay? He is absolutely correct. We seen that car pulling up through the parking lot in college, and it was like, uh-oh, here comes Debo. Who? Debo. It was literally like that. And then after you met him a couple years later, it was like, nah, this can't possibly be the same dude.
That's so funny.
But he dealt with his traumas and the things that sort of made him put up the defense mechanisms that he had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he recognized
which made sense at the time. I always quote you on this podcast for saying behavior makes sense. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was acting like that because just because it was because behavior made sense. But continue.
And what's crazy is even in that professional and educational environment, he still had a Debo presence.
Yeah.
Right? Until he found his path and his purpose and God gave him a vision, then he was able to really step into his true authentic self. But the thing is, he wasn't married to the parts of him that weren't working for him.
Yeah.
Because if you remember where he said he was when God gave him the vision of this isn't you,
Yeah.
Right.
right? It don't get no bottom than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fact that he wasn't married enough to this image that everybody else had of him, he was okay with transitioning to being a softer person. Not soft like you tough, bro. Like if you see this, you tough. I ain't saying you soft, but I mean a softer,
We know.
more loving and caring, a good husband, a good father, a mentor in the community. When I say this dude loves people, it's crazy that you can see like, oh, this was the dude checking everybody at parties, mean mugging, to this is the dude literally saving lives of young men in the community.
Absolutely.
So for me, that's that a clear example of living your true authentic self, and how to start is dealing with your childhood trauma so that you can recognize how you show up in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Once you see how you show up in the world, now you get to make a conscious decision. Is this the person I want to be?
Yeah.
Or
Showing
do I
up
want to
like this.
challenge some of these things that don't work for me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Executive decision making. I say it all the time.
And I think
Yep.
what you said about not being married to that version of yourself
Mm-hmm.
is so important, because some people, you start out and you put this mask on and you are not taking it off for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't imagine not living this way.
Mhm.
And so it requires, some bravery, some courage, which we're going to talk
Mhm.
about in a minute. But you have to be willing to lay that
That
self
down, yeah.
aside, lay that down, and see what's over here on the other side.
And I
I'll
think
give
so-
you
Oh,
I'll
go
give
ahead,
you
go ahead.
another example really quick. I've been fortunate enough to have a couple of professional athletes in my practice. And what I would say is, whether professional athlete or entertainer, when it's time to retire, they are lost, because the image they are as an active professional athlete is different than now you just a regular dad showing up to LA Fitness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's different. And that process of transitioning from the image that the outside world has of you
Mhm.
to who you have to actually show up as
Every
a
day.
regular everyday person,
Mhm.
it's a difficult challenge and struggle.
Yeah.
So the challenges that we all go through trying to find our authentic self, it doesn't matter your profession in life.
Mhm.
Everybody goes through it, a process of having to figure out who they are and who they want to be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And in the evolution of it, right? It's like you saying,
Yep.
you were that person when you was doing this thing, but now you've evolved and changed based on your life circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's something to be said for when we talk about like laying that version of yourself down. Like you could be thankful to that version of yourself, because we talk about it all the time. We talked about it in our February episodes, just in terms of Black history. A lot of it is survival, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we're not saying it was wrong for you to be raised that way or grow up that way. Like
Mhm.
that was your set of circumstances. You survived those set of circumstances, but you're not obligated to that version of yourself. Like you don't have to keep being that version of yourself just because that's the survival mechanism that you've had or you've always had.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's a way you can say goodbye to that without it feeling like you got to cut that part of yourself off completely or like shun that part of yourself. Like nobody's saying that. It's just like, okay, that was that. We acknowledge that is great. Now we're moving on to the next.
And that primitive part of yourself played a key role.
Correct.
So you needed that survival tactic to
Yeah.
get out of your situation, whether it's physically get out of it or emotionally or spiritually get out of it. You needed that primitive part of you that helped you transition and move forward.
Yeah.
But at some point in time, that primitive part, if it's done its job, then you're going to evolve into something past the primitive part. So that primitive part no longer serves you in the way that you need to operate in your professional stance, or being a husband or a wife, or being a parent,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or being a part of a church community or any other sort of community. That primitive part no longer serves you. You don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
You're safe now, right? You can
Yeah.
protect yourself.
Yep. You're safe now. That's good.
And give yourself permission to do that, which I think is
Yep.
cool. All right, next up, what tools or steps would you recommend to recognize and tap into like your inner voice? I think the world will have you not do that, right? Like they want you to
Be distracted.
keep buying the latest newest thing or do this thing or that, to follow this person's trend or do that. Like it keeps you on the hamster wheel of this stuff, right? But I think when I think of authenticity, and me and you have definitely worked on this for over a decade where like, you know, I had gone through like a emotional nervous breakdown like right before I met you or somewhere in there. I don't remember what part of our relationship we were in at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it was like, you knew I wasn't being true to myself all the time. I had too many other voices that I was listening to or trying to people please or like do all that kind of stuff. And you were like the person who was like, you know, you like, you got you, like do the things that are the best for you that you need to do so you don't end up in this place where you're always like spazzing out or falling out because you haven't, again, been authentic to who you are. But I think a lot of that was me learning to listen to myself. I think we don't put a whole lot of like, I'm happy for the kids now that like have meditation classes and like all of these things. I kind of went to a hippie high school, so we did it a little bit. But like these things that train you to start to go inside, to stop and start to go inside, which we talk about here all the time in terms of meditation, journaling, doing yoga, like whatever those things are that get you silent and in your own brain. So like, what can you, tools, tips, advice, anything else aside from what we've mentioned about how to tap into hearing your inner voice?
So one of the things that I would say, when you were asking the question, I was thinking of something came on my mind of trendy, right? It's tough to keep up with all the latest trends and things like that. But one of the latest trends that is I found particularly cool is the fact that professional athletes have been speaking up about the importance of mental health. So in our community, right, it hasn't been championed throughout history in our neighborhoods, in our communities, the mental health, right? And probably because a lot of us don't look like us, so it's hard, that trust factor takes into place. But I think it's really important to, while you like to exercise and eat healthy, to also get yourself in a mental health gym, aka therapy or some sort of counseling, right? The holistic person, the best authentic self, is one who is aligned mind, body, and soul. Right? So we talk about being able to have a strong foundation in order to be planted strong by the river when the wind starts blowing and maybe the top of the tree is swaying back and forth, but the roots remain the same. And I think that's a lot of what all of us has gone through, Jess. Like the top of your tree sort of swaying back and forth, but you eventually return to your roots and who you are and learn that other people's expectations of us is their problem. It's not our problem. And where we get caught up in these situations is we make other people's expectations of us our truth, or we try to. Right? Whether that is our parents want us to be a doctor and a lawyer, right? That's great that you want me to be that, but maybe I am an artist or an architect or a business person, right? People always ask me, I have children, people always ask me, don't you want your kids to be X, Y, Z? I just want my kids to be positive, contributing members of society. Whatever they choose to do, if they can do that, I've won as a parent. Right? All of the pressures that we put on one another is part of the reason that there's so much, so many representatives we meet. I don't want to say fake us, but we show our representative before we show our real self. And that representative is not indicative of who we really are. It's just what we want the world to see.
To present.
But then when we get people inside of our inner circle, we can really show and be vulnerable enough to show this is the real me, right? I am not a jerk or I'm not tough. I need to be held. I want to laugh and I want to love. I don't want to be tough all the time and be critical. And, you know, it's very interesting when I meet people at a party, they're like, what do you do? I work in mental health. Oh, well, let me tell you about this problem I have. Right? That is not what we're here for. And luckily, thank God, I can turn on the switch or turn it off in terms of when I'm in this professional mode. Now, my mind never stops working about being authentic, being honest, and accepting for people for who they are. But when it comes time for like assessment and all this other, no, we ain't here for that.
It's like, nah, bro, we not doing that. Quick story time from you. Can you tell us just so we have an example. Another example, I should say, about a time where you tapped into your authentic self and tried to align that with your actions. So, like, what was your truth? How did you execute it? And then, sort of, what was the outcome as a result of that? If you have
Sure.
one that comes
So I'm gonna get a little personal about myself. So I am married, right? And my thoughts of what being a man and a husband were very much so societal driven. Right. So I had all these, the woman cooks and cleans and I go to work and all this crazy stuff that,
traditional.
yes, all this crazy stuff
Talk
that
to
when
the
I got married,
podcast bros, Tremaine. Talk to the
I found real
podcast.
quick, like, oh no, bro, you've been watching too many fantasy TVs. Hey, my wife has an alpha personality. She is a boss in her own right. And it took me to realize, oh, respect her for who she is and what God has given her as a strength. The reason God brought you together is because you need this in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is what you need to make you a better man. This is the type of woman that you need. Now, that is no way indicative of me saying, oh, I'm the boss hog and I get to do what I want. Every man knows if you marry, all right, she the boss
And
for the
will
most
tell
part.
the truth.
She the
And will
boss.
tell the truth.
Yes. And she's going to hold you to a standard that you don't even know exists. So for me, it was about being able to challenge my ideas of what I thought a man was. Right? And recognizing only experience teaches you what a man is in terms of what you need to be for your family and your community. Right? Only experience teaches you that. So you're going to bump your head. You're going to go through ups and downs.
Yeah.
Right? So my wife is a communicator. You can do what you want, go to Vegas with your boys, but it's not going to be hey, I'll be back. I'm leaving the house. Well, where are you going? I'll be back when I get back. Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, right.
Nice try.
And I learned that quick. Right? So once again, you can pull that, but hey, man, if all is well in paradise, I'm leaving all is well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then I start to challenge myself and say, well, why is it that I have a problem saying, hey, I'm going to the gym with the fellas, I'll be back in 2.5 hours? And once again, it was these societal expectations of the man gets to do what he want, how he want, when he want. And that is completely untrue. At least in my life. Now, some of you fellas out there, you may live like that. More power to you, amen. But in the Walker home, nah, it's collaboration, baby. It's collaboration.
Come on, collaboration.
And we have found that our relationship has become more successful. I have been happier with myself as a husband and as a father as I've been able to challenge societal norms about what a marriage is and what my role of a husband is.
That's good.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Listen, y'all, some of y'all might need to rewind that back, okay?
Yeah, y'all need to play that a couple of
Y'all might need to
times. I'm just
rewind
gonna
that
say.
back.
Hey, fellas, I'm sorry for giving away the secrets. I'm still with y'all. Team man, okay?
Yeah.
But we got to keep it a buck.
As we like to quote in ATL, he trying to help y'all out, okay? Because
Yep.
your takeoff is weak and you started to make yourself look bad.
Yep,
Okay?
yep.
So rewind it back if you need it.
So, in our original truthful chat about this topic, we were talking about metanoia, which is the process of change and what it means to change your mind and expand in a way that actually gives you a new perspective. Kind of what you were talking about just then about how you had to change your perspective on what marriage was because it had gotten ingrained into another, you were ingrained in this particular thing. So can you speak a little bit about how changing your mindset and your perspective can help improve your mental health and your mental and emotional health?
Yes. So for starters, let me lead with this. Life is about perspective. So I'm going to say that again. Life is about perspective. So you can get up in the morning and be depressed because the sky is blue. It doesn't matter. It depends on your perspective. Whereas now I can get up and say, how could you be sad in such weather? Right? Life is about just your perspective and based on your experience and how you see things. The change in your perspective is where you will see if you're able to live your authentic self. Meaning, if something isn't working for you, I don't understand why you would keep doing it. It doesn't make sense,
Oh, we be trying to say.
right? And I know it's hard to break old habits, but what's more rewarding, staying in the process of habits that don't work, or the fear of trying something new?
Choose your heart.
And for some people, it's the fear. We're gonna talk
Yep.
about that in a minute. But some people, that fear
Mhm.
is so gripping that you just can't imagine moving forward. You can't imagine.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then you can't, if you're unwilling to do everything you can do to fix it, right? Whatever it is, then you can't complain that it's a problem.
Yeah.
Because I'm a person that believes that we all have it within us to resolve all of the hurdles that we face. Okay? We have it in us. Sometimes we need a little help teasing it out and whatever the case is. But for the most part, you know, if I don't like broccoli, why do I keep having broccoli every night? Or if I'm allergic to broccoli, why do you keep making broccoli every night? Oh, because they said eating broccoli makes you healthier.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. But you don't like broccoli. You're allergic to broccoli. It causes you to itch and to swell up and to sneeze. So why do you keep doing it? Just
Yeah.
do something different.
Change.
Or
Just because.
Change.
yep.
Just because.
And that's what it is. A lot of times we do things just because we are used to it. So when we are okay with evolving, we rarely get to things that we are used to because it's always evolving and changing.
Yeah.
Right.
And the most authentic people are okay with evolving. In fact, we champion evolution.
Yeah.
Right? You know you're winning in life when you can evolve from where you were 2 days ago. I mean, and I'm being, you know, a little facetious, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but we're not the same people we were 10 years ago when we met you. You
Right.
know what I mean? That would have meant you didn't do your work and we didn't do our work.
Yeah.
Say it again. So one of the things that you just said, that's the most important thing. When you go and reach into your tool bag of going to counseling or therapy or coaching, whatever it is you want to do, you can't expect the professional to do the work. You got to do the work.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I can attest to. You two have never been afraid of working. It's never been all right, we stuck in this place and they're unwilling to take a step. So that is sort of why you're able to evolve into your true self. And your true self is always evolving. It is never a completed process per se. Right? Once it becomes a completed process, then you stuck, sis. Okay. You need to get some more perspective. You need to go read a book. Like, we're always growing.
And I think you have to be willing to keep, like you were saying about broccoli, right? You eating broccoli, it doesn't mean that what they told you about broccoli is not true. It's just not true for you. Like, in the way that your system is wired or the way that you're made, which isn't bad. It's just not true for you. And so I think part of the getting stuck is people feel like, well, this is the thing that they said that will work for me. And I'm like, we could get into, you know, marketing dollars and all of that stuff or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's true. It's not a falsity. They didn't lie to you. But that might not be true for you. So I think part of what you're saying in terms of doing the work is you got to be like, okay, I tried that. It didn't work. What's the next thing I can try? And I think that's part of the process to get into authenticity. And you just got to be brave. You got to be willing to try a bunch of stuff and not just be like, well, I did the thing that they told me to do. My therapist said it didn't work. I'm like, okay, then you got to tell them that, and then let's find the next thing.
Oh man, I can't take it. You said the thing that is the most toxic thing about this process. What they said should happen. What they think we should do. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how much time we spend trying to reverse engineer what they think about what you should do with your life or what you should do, you know, to make things better. Right? Now, it doesn't mean what they said isn't true, like you said, but obviously it doesn't work for you.
Yeah. That was
right. And that's the part you got to be okay with challenging and kind of standing on your own 2 feet.
Yeah.
Right.
Facts.
It just is. And once again, life is challenging and difficult as it is already. When things don't work for you and you know it doesn't work for you,
And
stop doing it.
Yeah.
The challenge should be you're trying all these new things and you can't figure out what fits.
fits,
But you
right.
know that don't fit.
Yeah. Process of elimination still works.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, indeed. So that the next question was about how do you navigate your clients through in your practice through that thing. We know, like you just talked about. You say, okay, let's try this. Let's do this. Have you considered this? Let's try. But I think when you buck up against people where the process or the thought of doing that has such fear attached to it
Mhm.
that they can't take that step. How do you help people get past that fear? And we had a question about that somewhere. The
Yeah, we
fear of rejection, the judgment, the abandonment. How do you help people like understand or start the process of them trying to understand if you can get to this part, that part will be less.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? People don't realize if I can get over here, then I won't really be having to deal with this as much.
So the fear of rejection and all that good stuff, for me, it's about, once again, what was the message you got as a child about if you don't go along with what people said you should do, your parents or your aunts and uncles or the pastor of your church. If you didn't do what they said do, what was the message you got about the consequences?
Yeah.
So it's about breaking the stigma of this is the way we do it, quote unquote.
Right.
Right? That is one of the nastiest things I hear. Like, oh, this is the way we do it. Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Right? The other thing is, you guys know I can be challenging as a clinician. So at some point, if we keep bumping up against the same thing, I say it just like this. Oh, you really don't want to change. You like the toxicity.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where people recognize, oh, you get something out of this toxic situation. And you don't recognize that what you get from this toxic situation feeds into more toxicity. So when people be like, nah, I don't like it. I hate it. It makes me feel terrible. Oh, and yet you're unwilling to try something different. Right? You're unwilling to go, like, if your great grandma, your grandma, your mom, and all your aunts did things this way, well, maybe it works for them. But also, they didn't live in a world of social media and camera phones, like the anxiety of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's a different world in which we live in, and you're faced different challenges.
Correct.
Right? So it's really an understanding of how bad does this hurt when you do these things that don't feel good to you.
Yeah.
When you show up in your friend group and they all vegan, but you know you want a chicken wing, like, how uncomfortable are you sitting there eating cauliflower rice when you really want to taste those chicken wings over there? You know what I mean? You really want to dip that chicken wing in some ranch and dig in because that's who you are.
Right.
And when are you going to be okay with, if they don't accept me for like a chicken wing, then, hey, man, it wasn't meant for you, for me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But if they accept me for like a chicken wings, but they only want broccoli and kale salad, then great. We can accept the fact that we're different.
We're different.
And different is okay.
Different is okay.
And the reason we come up into such challenging situations in our society is that we're afraid of different.
Right. Right.
Right?
That's the biggest fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
The same thing with us.
That's one of the biggest
When we want to be our real authentic self, we're afraid of different.
Right. Yeah. And it's the peer pressure, right? It's the going along to get along, which I think is like one of the primary fears. And something we talked about when we originally talked about this tenet is like bravery is a really big part of it. Like, you got to be willing, like you said, to go. It's cool if y'all is, cauliflower ricing. I enjoy my chicken. God willing, nobody will throw up or fall out around me.
Rib. I might eat a pork rib. I might go all the way.
And I might eat some of this cauliflower rice, but I'm not going to sit up here. Right. But I'm not about to sit up here and act like I am not who I am. You know what I mean?
That part, Jess.
Right.
That part. Not acting like you aren't who you are.
Right. I'm
When
not.
you try to show up in different spaces as a different person, that's when the push and pull
Oh
of
my
who you
God.
really are starts to come into place.
And that's as uncomfortable as, you know, not saying anything. You know what I mean? Just going along to get along, right?
Mm-hmm.
The tug of war thing. But essentially, you hope that your authentic, like who you really are, wins out.
Mm-hmm.
That takes time.
I'll give you a place where we all been, Jess. When you go away to college and you live on campus, and then you got to come home for the summer, and now you in your mama house with her rules now. So now we used to leave to go out for the party at 11:30. Well, now mama said if 1 o'clock catch you, stay where you at. So you know what I mean? Now you get to choose. Do I come in and I'm gonna do what you say do, mom, and I'm gonna be unhappy, or do I figure out how to get a summer job and pay rent in my own apartment and deal with those challenges so I could do what it is that I want to do? Right? Which one is more important? Or you have the discussion with moms about, moms, I'm an adult now, yada yada yada. Now, from experience, I can tell you, it don't matter. Your mama gonna always be your mama, her house, her rules. But it's okay to present who you are and the evolution that you've gone through. I wish we were more excited as people to show our family the evolution of who we are.
That's so good.
Right? I wish we were more
That's
like.
how you create generational wellness.
That's a classic.
Yep.
If you show the people your evolution,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it's like we talk about with Christ, with, you know, people see Jesus in your life for this and that. They want, what do you have? What
Mm-hmm.
is it that makes you be able to think is going crazy around us, or not pop off when Uncle Johnny come and say what he been saying for 100 years, and you know your auntie is gonna say this? What makes you not be able to get in that conversation? What, and feel like you got to protect whoever side you on? What is the evolution in you that has made it possible for you to live a different way? That creates generational wellness.
Yep. And it's a calm about yourself. It's a calm that you were safe and you were okay with a different thought process.
Yeah.
So if we are doing it right, as we try to make the next generation better, right, which you guys are doing with generational wealth, then your children will go on to different colleges and different environments to travel the world. They'll see and experience different things than you've seen and experienced. And hopefully those things will create positive change in their minds to where we don't have to have a bunch of sheep thinking the same exact way. There's nothing wrong, black people in our community, there's nothing wrong with free thinking, okay? That don't mean that you don't love the Lord, right? Because that's our thing.
Yep.
That don't mean that you don't love the Lord. That don't mean that you disrespect what grandma and grandpa had to go through to get you to where you are. It just means that you've had an evolution of thought and you may not look at things the same way that your grandma had to look at things in the 50s.
Yep.
Correct.
Thank you.
Because it's a different time and we've evolved.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I think as we're talking about this, right, I'm hearing, and we talk about this on the podcast a lot too, introspection, right, self-awareness, like recognizing, going inside to be in touch with, as we like to say, to quote the great Cat Williams, in tune with your star player, right, like what's really going on inside, how you feel it.
Trusting yourself.
And being aware of how you feel it and how that affects all the people around you, right? And I think what we really are essentially talking about is creating generational wellness is part of a process in which you learn how to trust yourself, right? And I think we spend a lot of time, like you saying, whether it's being kids and the messages we receive, or societal messages, or cultural messages, right? That we're always taught like we can't trust ourselves, or like, oh, you just gonna go ahead and do that because you feel it. Like, well, what if this? You know what I mean? There's always some sort of like obstacle or second guessing when it comes to not trusting yourself. So what is therapy, like all these things that you can do in terms of working with someone who is a mental health and emotional health professional? How does that get you to a place where you're able to trust yourself? Because I think that's definitely a part of authenticity, right, within yourself, but also how you line up your true self with your authentic actions and making sure you're living a lifestyle that like promotes that. Anything you can speak to that in terms of just what therapy teaches you?
Sure. So I think a good clinician will challenge your irrational thoughts or your thoughts that don't serve you.
Correct.
They'll ask you to give them examples of where it did work and ask you to give them examples of where it didn't work and ask you to think about things where what is there something different that could work, or is there a different way you could have responded, right? So I think having a good clinician is like having someone with an outside perspective who can just offer feedback based on them knowing you and knowing what you've told them about yourself or what you guys have shared.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing about the therapeutic relationship is it is built on the trust of you and your clinician. So it don't matter how smart I am and all of the books that I've read. It matters, can I build a relationship with people and show them that I care about you winning in life? That's what I care about.
Yeah.
And when they know you care about them winning in life, they can buy into the relationship. And then clients are more likely to listen to you and let you challenge them because they know, like, oh, this person has my best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And if I go back and do something that resembles old behavior, they aren't going to leave me or punish me because I backtracked or made a backstep.
Yeah.
Whereas to your friends and family, if you do something that causes a stain on the family, you might get dirty looks or not invited to the next comedy show or karaoke night, or have to get the elders of the family pull you in the room and have a long conversation with you about. I mean, y'all know what time it is, right? And that in itself could create a lot of anxiety. And that's the biggest thing. When you're not living your true self, there's a lot of anxiety that comes with that because you it's like as an actor, you got to be on all the time. Like even actors have end days, right? So if it's a 12 or 16-hour day, at the end of that day, you can sort of take off those clothes, take off that role, and go home and be whoever you are.
Yeah. Your actual self. Yes.
Yes. But when you get on set and it's like action, now you got to be that particular character on a script.
Right.
And that's what's happening when we are not being our authentic self. We're being a character from a script. This is the script of social media, and social media says you should bling bling. I don't know if kids say that anymore because when I was growing up, Cash Money was taking over for the 99 and 2000. Okay, so if it ain't about bling bling, it ain't popping. But no, generational wellness is popping. Okay, why would you want your children or younger nieces and nephews to have to bump their heads the same exact way that you bumped your head?
Yeah.
Sounds like insanity to me.
Right? If you go through something and you can overcome it, for one, you become an example of sort of what to do. And it's not so much of what you say, but it's how you live. Like you said, Miss Pam, sometimes people can see the light in you and like, whoa, you don't even respond when Uncle Johnny be off his yak and talking crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you just, at the end of the night, you still give Uncle Johnny a hug. I love you. I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Because it don't affect you the same way. Because you know
your emotions
what it is that you
about,
trying to get out of this journey.
Yeah.
Correct.
Your emotions are over here, and your emotions are not impacted by Uncle Johnny's behavior.
And you were in control. It's very interesting. When I work with couples, they're like, oh, well, he makes me mad. And I go over to a light switch and I turn it on and off. And I say, this is what he does to your emotions. He can turn it off and then turn it on. Literally, no. You're getting mad because you're reacting or responding to something. People can't make us mad, right? Something gets triggered to where we feel upset or feel sad about something, or reminds us of something in our childhood, or even something we experienced in early adulthood. But it's our job to address what that is and deal with that. So once again, we can have better and quality relationships going forward.
Yeah.
And interaction.
Yeah. I mean, that was a question, but I think we kind of talked about it in terms of how living authentically affects your intimate relationships. But I think that's pretty clear. I'm like, you have the power to not have that person control you and your emotions, right? Everything starts, as we always say, everything starts with you at the end of the day. Like
Mhm.
everything starts with you, and then everything sort of ripples out or is
Mhm.
affected as a result of how you're doing.
And the reason that people struggle with living their authentic self is because they don't lean into the actual power that they have,
Mm.
right? They don't lean into the fact that I get to control how I respond to this.
Mm,
I get to control that.
right.
But instead, they start thinking like, oh, well, if this dude steps on my Jordans and I don't check them, now I look like a punk.
Right.
And it's like, what? When did that become a thing?
Yeah.
Right? But in actuality, if somebody step on you, be like, oh, you know what? My bad. I'm sorry. All right, bet. Yes, I'm mad my Jordans are dirty, but
Yeah.
it is not worth having to be bailed out or
Yeah.
any of those other troubles or being a grown man getting into an altercation over sneakers.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, like you said, to the point of like, that's what I tell people, like that's what therapy does. It gets you to like stop, pause, let me run out a scenario. You know what I mean? Like, let me check in and be like, okay, can I get out of this encounter without doing the most? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Whereas some of y'all, that was y'all knee jerk reaction. We
Mhm.
gonna do the most all the time,
Right.
because statistically, I survive when I do the most, right?
Right.
But that might not always
My
be in your
history, my
right.
experiences tell me.
But that might not
Mhm.
always be in your best interest, and you might have evolved out of that.
Mhm.
Which brings me to another question as we're wrapping up
Wrapping
here,
up.
because we've kind of talked about all the other stuff that we had. Like, it's all come up. So Westworld is one of my favorite shows probably ever. But we talk about on the podcast in light of, there's this phrase that they say, have you ever questioned the nature of your reality? Right. And we don't have to get into the whole why they asked that question.
Mhm.
About artificial intelligence, droids, et cetera, et cetera. It's a little scary because it's our lifestyle a little bit, like where we're going. So,
Mhm.
you know, if you're going to watch the show, just know it might trip you up a little bit about having Alexas and Siris and Googles and all that stuff.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. We use it on this podcast to be, to make people aware and present about the things we're talking about, especially when it comes to authenticity. Like you said, some of us are just going along to get along, right? We've never asked ourselves about the question, the nature of our reality. Like, why do I react like that?
Mhm.
Why does that thing trigger me versus when that person says that versus when somebody else says it to me, I might not even flinch or it's not that big of a deal, right?
Mhm.
So I think this question is along the lines of like, how do you get to be brave enough to start asking yourself those questions? And like, what are there any tools or tips, or do you think it's the job of a therapist to like help somebody through the upending, like the turmoil, the transition that comes from when you start asking yourself those questions?
Mhm.
Things start changing, but
Mhm.
it's not going to change to like your detriment. Like, you can
Mhm.
survive that. I think that's when we go back and talk about the fear of not just going along to get along, but the fact that like,
I'm
this
gonna
might
die.
shake up,
Yeah.
right? This might shake up everything I've ever known or everything I've ever thought. So what can you offer to people to be like, yes, that's probably gonna happen,
Mhm.
but you're not gonna die because of that?
Right.
Because I think that's what people think. I'm gonna die if I start
Mhm.
asking myself these
People
questions.
gonna take advantage of me. I'm,
I'm,
you know
yeah,
what I mean. You
I'm
have
gonna
all
lose
these.
all my friendships. My whole life's gonna change. I
Yeah.
gotta move,
Mhm.
and some of those things might happen. But
Mhm.
what can you tell those people to calm them down a little bit?
So the first thing I would say is you're absolutely correct. Some of those things definitely could happen. Right? You could definitely lose friendships. Your interactions could definitely shift and change. Prayerfully, you're not ending nothing to where if you stop doing it, you could actually die.
Yeah.
But you know, some of these fears could happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if people really love you, when they find out that you are not really vegan,
Right.
they can do their own work to accept you. So I believe that life is like a puzzle piece, right? So let's say your puzzle piece is like this, and the people around you interact with you. You guys fit like a puzzle. But then as you evolve and shift, guess what? Your puzzle piece shifts.
Mm-hmm.
So now the people that used to interact with you like this, they don't fit anymore.
Right.
So guess what? These situations that do not belong in your puzzle piece will go away.
That
And
changed
you
my
may
life
not,
when you told me that. I just want you to know.
you said what?
That changed my life when you told me that.
Well, it's true because those
Yeah.
situations are not, and if we're believers, right, God is going to take things out of your life that you don't need. Even if it hurts you to rip that Band-Aid off.
Come on, somebody.
It ain't going to kill you. It might hurt. And that hurt is to teach you a lesson, but it ain't going to kill you. So, yes, there are some things that no longer fit into your puzzle piece as you evolve and shift. Accept the fact that your evolution has caused you to be greater than the things you used to be involved in. Accept the fact that's God's blessing for your evolution, that these things no longer fit. So guess what? You're no longer involved in some of the same toxic thought processes and engagements that didn't work for you.
Correct.
And where we get ourselves into the trouble, and this is a whole nother discussion for a whole nother level of introspection, we try to hold on to things and situations that clearly don't fit what we got going on or where we're going. We try to hold on to it, and we try to hold on for way too long. And what I want you to think about is, look, milk has an expiration date.
Right.
And you know us, we like to play with it a little bit, like, oh no, I can still drink it 3 days after the date.
Yeah.
What you're doing when you're holding on to things that don't fit in your puzzle piece anymore, you now starting to drink the milk after it then curdled and got chunky and it's smelly. You see that face you're making right now? That's the exact face you need to think about making when you're holding on to things that clearly you can see don't fit.
Period.
And I'm a firm believer that for the most part, if we think about it hard enough, we have enough introspection to be able to see this ain't working. I don't want to give up this dude I'm dating or this girl I'm dating. But man, it ain't working. This job really paid me a lot of money. But man, it raises my anxiety. It clears, right? We get to see on our plate every single day the things that aren't in a groove. We aren't in a groove about these things, right? It's not fitting the way it needs to fit. It's here, and it's just not quite fitting.
Trying to jam it in.
And you trying to go back and change your puzzle piece so it fits again. Well, now you're trying to reverse your evolution, and that don't work.
Yeah. You
That's
gotta
where
love yourself. You gotta love yourself enough to be like, my puzzle piece done shifted and it's gonna stay shifted. That's what I said. So that's the part of like, you get in where you fit in, or you can get off.
Or get gone. Get with us or get gone.
Tremaine, I think about people. Oh, go ahead, and then I'll say.
No, go ahead. No, you good.
I think about people though that have done this for so long. You know, like I've been dealing with my sister and in her stage of life right now. But sometimes people have pushed it down so long and buried it so long that you say, you feel like people have a certain amount of introspection and they should be able to see it. But sometimes they can't. They can't,
or they don't want to.
They probably don't want to or don't know how to. So that's my question to you. Like if you meet people as clients that have pushed and repressed down so much, all of these things that should be a natural way to evolve, but they have done stuff, to survive, that now it's hard for them to even start to look at this process. Like, how do you start to help those people?
And I want to add to that, even people who are maybe going through, like, I call it like an emotional like numbing. You know what I mean? Where they might have just got out of something super traumatic, or something might have just happened and they just can't. I think didn't Jason or somebody refer to it like as emotional thawing. Like they haven't had the time to like really like thaw out from that experience. So they might just be emotionally cold or emotionally repressed. What would you say?
So in terms of what you were saying, Jess, that is what I think the healthy person, what we do is we try to take time and we try to reflect on what's going on with us. I don't feel great, or I am not having the interactions that I'm used to having, or whatever the case is. So therefore, you could get yourself some help and recognize that you're going through this emotional thawing. In terms of what you were saying, Ms. Pam, in terms of people who have packed it down so much to where they don't recognize it. Well, and this is, I don't mean it literally, but literally you come to see me because something isn't working.
Right, exactly.
So we try to peel back the layers and see what about your life? When I say something, when I said like a few minutes ago, when I said you start drinking milk when it's smelly and it's got all chunky, and Jess, your face did like this. Yeah, when you see reactions like that, you like, ding, 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 there it is. There's our
There it
prize,
is. There
or
it is.
one of our prizes. So you start peeling back layers and just working through things and allow that person to show up as themselves. But as the clinician, you are sort of holding them in a safe emotional space so that they know they're not being judged for these things that aren't working. But you ask them, is if it's not working for you and it makes you feel pain or uncomfortable,
Yeah, yeah.
do you believe that there's another way to live life?
That is the question. Do you believe that there's another way? And for some people, that's the $25 million question: is are they able to believe that life could be another way?
And when they say no, it's all right, well, let's keep peeling back layers. But you never let them actually escape the fact that it starts with you have to believe that this could be different.
Yeah, you have to believe.
Once I get a good relationship with people, I'm going to leave you in that uncomfortable space. And I think y'all know that about me. I am, in my office, I don't got no tissue or nothing. I want clients roll around on the floor, snot bubbles coming out, tears flowing. I want that because I want all of that stuff to come out. Right? When we get a good cry, we always feel better. It's weird. I don't understand that, but a good cry always makes us feel better. But at the end of the day, I'm going to keep you in that uncomfortable space and keep challenging. Why don't you believe? Who told you that life couldn't be different? What did you see that said life couldn't be different?
Yeah, that's good.
Right? If you talk about, oh, my uncle was a drug dealer, so this is what we do. Well, he didn't deal drugs when he was in prison. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't BMFing while he was in prison.
Right.
So life could be different.
Yeah.
Now, it could be different under the guise that somebody's making you do it, or it could be different under the guise of you're making a conscious choice of trying to create a different type of generational wellness for your family. And audience, it only has to start with you.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind, it only has to start with you. And as your light shines, other people will be attracted to that light and want to know how you did it. Once again, they won't be able to interact the same way. In order for them to stay in your life, they'll have to rearrange their puzzle piece too to fit.
That's good.
They got to meet you where you at.
They got to meet you in your healthy space.
Facts.
Yeah. Well, I think that brings us to our next to last question. We talk about emotional mastery a lot, and you just talked about it. You got to make a decision. You got to decide to believe that things can be different. And so the goal is to get people to, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
I knew the phone went
Be
off.
quiet. The goal is to get people to that place of emotional stability and steadiness. So what is the kind of the first, I don't know, is it the first step or that you can sort of take to start saying, I need to make more informed decisions. That's what I need to do.
Because we want you to be emotionally steady. That's what we're trying to get to. So it's the things we've been talking about. Yeah.
So for me, when you said that and finished your question, the first thing that came to my mind, and I don't know if this is correct, but it was the first thing that came to my mind, so I got to say it, is we have got to manage our anxieties. Right? You got to be able to control that and recognize that you are in control of how you feel. Okay? So being in control of how you feel helps create emotional stability. When you are triggered in some situation and you're able to say, you know what? 3 years ago, this would have made me mad. But right now, I'm about to go give Uncle Johnny a hug and tell him I love him and see him next week. Right? You're not responding the same way you used to respond to certain situations. And here's where we get into trouble. When we expect other people to change themselves. Because in order for other people to change, they've got to also see the light themselves. Or they've got to be so in love with being in your life that they're willing to change their puzzle piece. Right? I always tell people, when you've been in therapy for a while or in counseling for a while, and you are no longer like you're having these difficulties interacting with people, you have to realize that a lot of times you have elevated to a deeper and different level of intellectual understanding of yourself and your situations. Everybody hasn't gotten there yet. And because everybody hasn't gotten there yet, you may feel weird or different that the interactions aren't the same.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe God's calling in your life is for you to be the trailblazer and a leader for your family and creating this generational wellness.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that means when you get on Zoom calls with the family and y'all discussing something important and everybody yelling and fussing and fighting, when you get a chance to talk, you just calmly say, hey guys, when we're yelling at each other, no one can hear one another.
Mm-hmm.
The Zoom has a feature where you can raise your hand. Why don't we just raise our hands and, I don't know, Aunt Julia, you can call on people.
Yeah.
And you say what you got to say. And we don't have to debate one another's perspective. Your perspective. I don't have to agree, but okay, I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really about managing our anxieties and not being afraid. And I'm about to say something that's going to make people quiver. Not being afraid to be alone.
Talk about
And
it.
I don't mean physically be alone, because we probably won't physically be
In your
alone.
stand.
But alone in your stance, like the kids say, standing on business,
Yep.
right? Or planted by the river,
Yep.
right? Strong roots. While the top of the tree may sway and move and even lose leaves,
Mm-hmm.
that tree ain't going nowhere.
Facts.
Where it's planted, that's where it is. And the only way it's going somewhere is you dig it up. And you got to be careful of all the roots, because if you cut some of the roots off, you may lose that tree.
Yep.
Completely.
So you when
And it
that
may
those
grow back if you don't get all the roots.
nope. So you when those roots are planted, those roots have to be strong in that rich soil. You are the rich soil. As you become healthier and as you become a better you, you're the rich soil. So your growth, the tree of you, the growth is planted in that rich soil. Now the top may sway once again, but who you really are, the true authentic self, will remain the same.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like as I'm listening to you talk, right, it's a lot of like personal responsibility, right? Accountability. You can't just be like, my emotions are what my emotions are, so I just get to, continue to be this person. I'm like,
Right.
you can, but I don't know if that's. I
Right.
don't even think that's 100% of what you want. It's just easier, right?
Yep.
Because it's a lot less work, right? That has to be done.
Yeah. And some people just don't want to do the work. Let's just
There you
be
go.
real. They don't want to do the work.
So
'Cause
you
it's
said
not easy,
yeah.
but
You
oh my God, on the other side.
you said the key word. People make a choice not to do the work, or a lot of times we make a choice to stay in toxicity.
Mhm.
Right?
Like
Even
that,
if we
it's
don't know that there's another side, we're not even exploring to see if something else can work.
Yeah.
Facts. Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully, people can get to that part, right? Where they're just like, and I think knowing that you are worth the risk of making changes that benefit you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, either people will love you enough to do it with you, or not so much. And that's cool too. I really believe that like God sends better, right, to you. When you were talking earlier, like I was like, this is what pruning is. We talk about it a lot in church, but like that is really what
Pruning.
what Jesus means when he talks about that, it's a gardening thing. It's not just like a spiritual thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
People cut rose bushes so that the sap is redirected, right, back into the roots and back out so that more growth can happen. If you just let the regular dead blooming roses or whatever tree or whatever, pick a thing, right, continue to grow in the same direction, that might not be the healthiest thing for that particular plant going forward. So I think when we get in seasons where we have to cut people off or walk in our stance alone or do those things, like it's painful in the moment, but the reward on the other side is great if you just
And cutting people off don't have to be this big dramatic event.
Yeah.
Maybe you just fall back a little bit because you recognize that maybe certain people are sucking more energy than they're adding to your life.
correct.
And maybe that's not working for you. Or maybe you can only do them and that sucking of energy twice a month versus every week or every day.
Boundaries.
There you go, Jess. There you go.
Tell me.
Boundaries are important when you talk about living your true, authentic self. That is one of the concrete foundational pieces of this tenet is boundaries.
Yep.
Because when you don't have good boundaries, you can never be your true, authentic self because you're always shucking and jiving, trying to appease other people.
And you know how.
And once again, we all go through it.
Yeah.
Nobody is special enough to escape this part. Right? Nobody doesn't have to go through the self-understanding and self-actualization part.
Yeah.
It's just, when do you realize that you need to make some changes?
When do you realize?
And how much damage has this tornado caused in your life? Right? Before you realize, like, oh, I emotionally I can't spiral.
It's me. It's not everybody else. It's
right.
me. It's really me.
Right.
Good.
And that's the control of your own self and your own emotions when you're able to say, these are the things I can change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you get to that place, you're close to true, authentic self. When you're able to really say, it's me. I need to do some things and have some sort of inside look to see what are some things I need to change.
Yeah.
That's good.
And that's how you create wellness in yourself. And then you can pass that on.
Pass it on.
To the
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Last
question. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. This,
of course.
honestly, this like an extended session. This is what our therapy sessions be like. And then every now and then we just talk about pop culture. Like probably on Thursday when we meet, we will discuss all these beefs and disses that's going on between the big three, Quavo, Chris Brown, and Friends.
Right.
All the things. So that's the part.
And that discussion of pop culture part is a part of who you are.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, to avoid that would be avoiding a part of yourself.
Yeah.
So we lean into who we are.
We lean into that. So yeah, that's the only part of this discussion that you guys are missing, but that's our own time. All right. So lastly, you mentioned you are a husband, father,
son,
uncle, son, all the things in between. So how do you instill this tenet in your life for yourself, and then how are you trying to pass it on to your kids?
Your family.
Yeah.
So I myself have my own therapist and have been having my own therapist. My therapist is dope, and he knows that I need challenging. If you allow me to just show up as me, like, oh, everything's okay, things are great. You know what I mean? Like that, I'm wasting my time and his time.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of times he'd be like, you know what, get out of my office. You ain't ready to work today. Oh, and leave my check before you go. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, wait a minute. If I'm going to be here, I'm going to get charged for this. I might as well work.
Might as well do some work.
The second thing is with my kids, at least, and my kids are young. I'll say with my siblings. When they come against challenges in life, we'll talk about, was this worth the headache or the heartache you had to go through? Well, it's crazy. As your brother, I'm telling you, this is the third or fourth time I've seen something like this come out of your life. Maybe we could look at challenging this way of thinking or this way of living. And if it doesn't work, you can always go back to the drawing board. But, I got these numbers of these dope clinicians I know, or maybe you need to go sit in the front row and listen and see if God is touching you. You know what I mean? Like, stop sitting in the back with the homies. Go sit in the front dolo. And once again, they're not going through the same struggles and challenges as you. You are in a place of growth and evolving right now. And what we need to realize sometimes what God has for us is just for us. It's not for the people around us. It's for us. And as we lean into what God has for us, then we can bless other people and they can start to grow and change and challenge their own selves. Or you could be the leader of your family and friendship group. So when they see you're living a healthier lifestyle, they want to be, remember that word, trendy, and lean into that.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that trendiness turns into an actual way of life. So I try to lead by example. I try to talk about my own challenges. Like even with my friends that are married, I talk about my marriage challenges and how most of the time it's me. You know what I mean? Like just being too much of my ego. You said a word earlier, just ego. It is so hard to manage that ego. In my church, they call it that old man. It is so hard to manage that old man within me. I cannot lie. And it's a constant struggle to remember, is this true, authentic Trey talking, or is this that old man trying to flex for the gram? You know what I'm saying? And that flexing for the gram is over, brother. Like I knew it was over when I traded in a really nice car for a Prius.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things to where, remember? And it was one of those things where it was like, it was nice having that status, but now that gas is $12 a gallon, I spend $30 and I get a week and a half.
Yeah.
So I became more efficient in my life with the way I was doing things, which is more so along lines of being a walker because we cheap. Okay, the flex and the flash was dope for that time, but having children and responsibilities, I don't. Me personally, I don't need the flex. That don't do anything for me. It may do things for other people, and that's great. I don't judge you for that. But for me, I just want to live a very simple life where I'm able to give back to the community, and that's what makes me feel good, giving back.
Yeah, you had to evolve, if you will.
Yes.
Final question. What does create generational wellness look like for you? What do you think about when you hear that word? You might have talked about some things before, but that's what we like to end with. What does create generational wellness look like?
To me, creating generational wellness, when I hear generational, I think bigger than thyself. That's the first thing that I hear, bigger than thyself. So a lot of times we have got to go through some mud and some trials and some tribulations, and we've got to experience some of these hardships so that we have the keys to being able to redirect the people that come after us or the people in our circle and in our lives of a light to walk towards to change some of the toxic or the irrational ways that we live life. I think when you think about generational wealth, right, you think about investments that pays dividends beyond us. So your mental health is an investment that pays dividends beyond yourself. It affects everybody around you, everybody you interact with. Okay? Financially, the decisions you make now can exist well beyond you. Right? So once again, is it worth paying a mortgage for this Porsche? Or do you pay off this Prius in a couple months and now you can put that money aside for a family vacation to where you can give your kids some of these experiences? Or you can send them to private schools, or you can let them play in all the sports that their little hearts can handle. Right? So it's about managing what's important beyond thyself. Right? Being a good team member is being selfless while balancing the need of selfishness too. So I am big on boundaries. All right, I could do it or I can't. That's just it. I don't feel guilty about it. I don't feel no sort of way, but it took some time. But I'm also very selfless, meaning if I'm available to come over and clean out your garage, I'm gonna come do it, and I don't expect nothing from it. So balancing selflessness and beyond thyself, and the selfishness to keep you healthy, sane, and clear enough to where they can look at you and say, that's a good example of wellness. That's the goal to me.
I like it.
Did I answer your question, or am I just talking out my neck?
Of course.
No, that's great. I'm just over here, say loud, pause, think about that. Because it's important, and I think what you're saying is your priorities will naturally shift
as you evolve.
and you prioritize again the balance of my taking care of myself and thus also being beyond
The
myself too.
responsible.
The responsibility of it.
Responsibility.
Not being married to that old man enough to be willing to evolve.
To be willing to evolve. Because you're worth it. Okay?
Yep.
It's important. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Dr. Tremaine Walker. I'm trying to tell you, man.
Thank you guys for having me so much. And I just want to say, man, what you guys are doing here is you creating a blueprint for greatness. Because we talk a lot about certain things in our communities, but the concept of creating generational wellness, to me, that is beyond amazing and beyond great. Because you're giving people the tools of things they can start doing to start chipping away at some of the walls in their life.
Yeah.
Now, it ain't gonna work for the cookie cutter mold. Ain't gonna work for everybody.
Yeah.
But if you could give it a shot and try, you can say you're doing your best.
Yeah.
And that's all we want.
That's all we want.
That's all we want.
Thank
you so much. We appreciate you. You're welcome to come back. And if you could call us and be like, Jess, okay, Pammy, I had an idea. I think we should talk anytime. Okay? Okay, anytime.
Thank you so much.
Our podcast door is always welcome. Hang out for a minute. We'll be right back.
All right, y'all. Man, that was, I know. We went a little over, but you got to understand, this is the sense that, y'all got to think about this like we was all Kobe Bryant, RIP to the GOAT, in the locker room with Phil Jackson, okay? And we had to take a little bit more time with the Zen Master speaking because we don't know if these revelations is ever going to come around again or not.
Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a wrap up of the month, man. The wrap up of the tenets. Listen,
and I want to tell y'all, like Jessica said,
y'all gonna have to go back.
For those of you who are afraid of therapy and what therapy looks like, that's what it looks like.
Literally,
what we've done with these people this month is what therapy looks like. Nobody's gonna come for you. Nobody's gonna, you know what I mean? It's not. They're trained to go as far as you want to go at this minute. And then just push you a little bit further. Right. So it doesn't hurt.
And to Tremaine's point too about you, their job is to get to know you and appreciate you. That I think is really key about therapists, right? Which is why we say, and it's not for everybody. Sometimes it's great to have a therapist that looks like you, right? That culturally identifies with you. We've talked about in the past, particularly on this podcast, sometimes we have cultural fears. So that could show up in a field where people don't look like you. But if you can find somebody, anybody of any color, any hue that respects you, understands you, likes you, cares about you, your well-being, you being the best person that you can be, that's the clinician you want, okay? And it's like dating. It ain't gonna be a knockout the park every time. You might have to try a couple folks. But we hope that we have sort of demystified the therapeutic process so that it's not so scary, right? It's exactly what you've seen for 4 episodes. Anyway, with that, we're coming back next month. It's May. Why? 2024 is whipping a little bit. It's whipping. Anyway, we're gonna be back next month. I don't know what the word is. But we are going to be switching some things up on you. Just know.
Get ready.
Just get ready. Be ready. Stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. The gospel is sugar free. And the way that you're going to stay ready, okay, is if you're subscribed on the YouTube channel, follow us on IG, Facebook, fan base. We are at Create Generational Wellness on all the platforms. You know, I forgot to ask the good doctor how people can connect with him. But we'll make sure we have all that information loaded up for you. Now, here, let me say this. Y'all not gonna be taking my slot. You're not gonna be taking Pammy's slot. So y'all better get where you fit in. I'm just saying. I'm very territorial when it comes to Dr. Tremaine Walker. I'm just saying. Anyway, yeah, man. Come back next week. It's gonna be a good time. We'll be here. We hope you will be here. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Peace. Have a great night.